Hello friends, and welcome back to the Homesteading Housewife. I am Monica, for those of you that are new, and today we are chit-chatting in my bathroom, but it is no longer a bathroom. Right now it is a brooder that we are just like commingling with for the duration of the chicks being inside. So I wanted to show you my setup because there are so many new homesteaders out there. There are so many people buying chicks. Don't tell me you aren't, because none of them are at my local feed stores. But I digress. I wanted to show you a different way to set up your brooder system, because a lot of people, especially new, you're going to research and you're going to see these beautiful Pinterest and Instagram worthy setups that are hundreds of dollars. And you're going to be like, that's what I need. I can't afford that, so I can't get chickens. And you kind of get into that mindset. But I am here to tell you, you do not need to spend a bunch of money to have beautiful, healthy chicks that are going to grow into beautiful, big, plump birds that you can either butcher for meat, you can keep for eggs, you can keep for pets, whatever it is you're wanting to do. So, I'm going to show you my setup because if you have followed me any length of time, you know I love using stuff that I already have around the area instead of buying, and making it as cheap as possible while also keeping everything like the way it should be. So in my setups, the only thing I had to buy was the Brooder Heater, and that was because of the Quail initially. Any other time I have done chicks, I have actually either used just a normal lamp, not a heat lamp. I despise heat lamps. So it has always been just a normal lamp that does, you know, it just has a light bulb in it that kind of gets warm, and they've done great. And then I've also used a heating pad, and all I do is just take the heating pad and kind of make it into like a cave. And then the chicks can go in, stay warm, come out when they need to. And that was actually my favorite way of doing it, was actually using the heating pad. Although they did like the light. It was just one of like an office lamp, and I just had it in there, and like they loved it. But I just say that to say you don't have to get this brooder heater. That is all I spent. Was I think that size was $40 on Amazon. I'll link it down below. I will say I do really like it. It's essentially like my heating pad setup, except where a heating pad will go off after so long and then you have to turn it back on. This will stay going 24/7. But without further ado, let me introduce you to all my babies. Okay, so first we have the quail habitat. So this is, ignore that. This is the quail brooder. So we ended up, I have 19 quail. So it was no fault of anyone's except the weather that I think all 50 did not hatch. So I started with 50 eggs. Of course, there were a couple that weren't fertile. But we had a ton of windstorms while I was incubating, and the electricity went off multiple times. So I ended up getting 22 to actually hatch, but then 2 of them got trampled. They were little runts and they just got squished. And then a third one drowned, not because of my water system, but because I didn't have this net on yet. I didn't have any kind of top, and it had flown up here where I had a glass of water and drowned. So, because it's a bathroom, so I wasn't in here right away. So we have 19 quail, and they are beautiful, healthy. I'm going to try to pronounce the Quarternix quail, I think is how you pronounce it. They're the quail that, they're jumbo. They get about a pound, and at 6 to 8 weeks, you can either butcher or they'll start laying eggs. They are close to 3 weeks right now. So they are almost ready to be sexed. They should all be sexable. So hopefully I'll know my female to male ratio here shortly. Again, they have the brooder system. We just have some pine shavings down. And then I just upgraded their food and water. For the longest time, their water had rocks all in it. And that was just to help, because quail are so tiny, it was to help them not drown. And it worked really well. They were just rocks from my front yard, or my driveway. But I just removed it because they're big enough now that they can use a regular water. And then all my setup is a pack and play That was my kids whenever they were tiny. And then this is an old soccer net. And it is being held down by rusty and semi-dry rotted little, I can't think of the word, but bungees. There we go. I have them periodically hooked just to keep everything tied down so that they can't fly out. And they're big enough now that these holes, they can't get in. So this is them, and this is their setup. And they will stay here until 5 to 6 weeks, and then we will move them outside into their permanent home. They are on the game bird crumble, which also, if you are wanting to start quail, so first remember rocks in the water just so they don't drown. And also the crumble, the chick crumble, is also still too big, so you have to grind it. So for the longest time, they were getting it coffee ground. I would coffee ground it, or I would grind it with a coffee grinder and then give it to them. But they're now, again, big enough to just eat the crumble. The second setup that we just did today is for my other babies. What it is, I'll take you over here. And then we have, okay, so we have mystery duck, 2 rowan ducks, which those were because of my kids, and they want more. Rowans aren't great egg layers, but they are really friendly. So I'm happy that we now have duck pets, if they're boys. And then random, but I hope it's a girl. And then these little babies we just got yesterday, they are black astrolops. We got 6 of them, and they were straight run. And then this one, you can see it's black feet. We have 2 of those. They were straight run, and there they are. They're in there. But they're black diamond. They have silky in them, so they have 5 toes and black feet. And then we have 2 black sex links, and they're pullets. So, hoping, of course, that all my straight run are in fact girls, but we all know that there's probably going to be a rooster in that mix. But the little penguin, the black astrolops, those are just a couple days old. And then the ducks and the sex links and the black diamonds, they're all about a week old. But everyone is getting along really well. And so their system is kind of like over here. They have their little brooder heater, food and water, and then this setup is just a huge dog crate kennel that I stuck on its side so that it would be wider. And then I have the little tray that goes in the bottom of a kennel. I have it right here. And then it has its pine shavings. And then we have an old towel. No, we have an old sheet that is, again, held together or held on with these half dry rotted and rusted bungees. And this just helps everything to stay in. Yeah, so if you've ever raised chicks in your house, you know as they get older, it gets really dusty. So this is just going to help keep down that mess. Obviously, it's still going to get out because the front and the top is open, but it is going to help keep the mess down. And then before, when they were little, same with the quail, they were just in this big tote. But of course, they have outgrown that, and they'll be able to stay in this until they're ready to go out at 6 to 7 weeks, depending on how the weather's doing. And then they're just on crumble, and of course, their water is just fine. And then what I like to do when they're about two weeks old, I like to go ahead and stick in branches and just stuff for them to play with. And I'm going to do the same over here with the quail. They're going to get some branches because they like to fly. And so they're definitely going to get some stuff to climb on and hop on. And then I'll put some branches down in here, some things for them to bounce on and play with over here. And that just helps with aggression, and it helps keep them busy so that they don't get bored. Because, again, if you've ever raised chicks, you know that the brooding situation, no matter what you're doing, unless you just have a huge area, they're going to be in some sort of confined space. And so you really want to keep them occupied so that they don't start fighting or picking on one another. You're going to have a little bit of natural picking because they're going to be making a pecking order, and that is completely natural. But I'm talking about like actually fighting just because they're bored. That you really don't want. So I always like to set stuff up, but I like to wait a couple weeks just because that first week they really aren't going to be super active. They're going to want to be under that heater and come out to eat or drink, play for a couple minutes, and then go back under. Another great thing about my particular setup, so I have them in the bathroom, so I keep the door shut. They have a wonderful window right above them, so they get natural sunlight all day long. And then there's also a vent on the floor right underneath them. So I have it open so that if for whatever reason the electricity goes off, and so of course the brooder heaters are not going to work, they're still going to have heat because it's propane heat. So they're going to have heat, they're going to be taken care of, and I won't have to worry about them potentially getting too cold if electricity goes out. And I did that because of all the trouble that we have had recently about electricity going out. We live in the boonies, so if it goes out, it takes a while to come back on. But that is all I had to show you guys today. I wanted to show you the setup for all you new homesteaders out there that are wanting to raise chicks. Just show you some different ideas, like you don't have to spend money. Like, obviously, you spend money on feed. You spend money on some sort of way to keep them warm, bedding, and whatnot. But as far as the actual setup, it does not have to be expensive. And then real quick, with Quail, if you have like an apartment or just a balcony or no yard, something like that, a very small confined space, you can still have Quail. Obviously, I know there's some restrictions with apartments, but you can put Quail in a bird cage. Like, they don't need a ton of space. So if you're just wanting a couple egg layers, get a nice bird cage and stick them in a bird cage. And same with chicks. So for those that like silkies and they want something that may not be a terrific egg layer, but they still lay some eggs, silkies are great to have just inside. They're the bougie chicken, and they love being inside. So you can always go with a smaller breed bird. Bantams, any type of bantam is just a smaller breed bird for smaller spaces. Or you could get yourself some of the big mama birds, like Buffalo Orpington, for instance, and just have a couple of them in your backyard if you have that. But it doesn't have to be a super fancy setup. And if you've ever seen my chicken coop, first off, I love my chicken coop because my dad made it for me. But the run is nothing fancy. The chicken coop is, because it was a gift to me, but the actual run is PVC pipe and fencing. And I'm getting ready to, and I'll bring you along, getting ready to add an extra run because we're going to have more chicks, and we also have ducks now. So I got to make a duck shelter. And then in June, we will have more chicks coming, and they are coming from Hoover Hatchery. I have 20 chicks, but these will be out by the time I get those because I can't find any in the store. So we have these. The astrolops are good egg layers. The sex links are good egg layers, but the black diamonds are kind of like silkies. You get like 100 and 150 eggs a year, so they aren't great, but they're docile birds, and they were for my son. He picked them out. So I told him he could get whichever ones he wanted as long as it wasn't a meat bird, and that's what he chose. And then if anyone's wondering, this is the setup my daughter made her duck. So we have glass geese, which have lost some of their heads, and it's the duck's bed. So whenever they come in here to play, they get that down, and the duck has, you know, a nice place to sleep. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday. We are actually going to be getting ready and doing a birthday party for my son. He is the big 11. So I just wanted to hop on since I had just cleaned this up and currently working on cleaning up the bathroom, making it, you know, as nice as possible for company since it's a barn, essentially. But I just wanted to show you guys and kind of inspire you if you need the motivation to get yourself some chicks, if that's what you're wanting to do, to say that you don't have to spend a bunch of money in order to do it. And you can see mine are extremely happy in their little environment. So I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.